You've now heard the motion. Is there any discussion or amendment to the rule?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Mr. McGovern?
I'm going to have three amendments. First, I have an amendment to the rule. I move the committee strike Section 6 of the rule, which tables Representative Luna's original resolution providing for consideration of House Resolution 23, permitting parental remote voting by proxy, killing the discharge petition. Madam Chair, last week's rule was the first ever in the history of the House of Representatives to try to just outright kill a discharge petition that had already been signed by a majority of the House and wasn't being considered by another method. This week's rule has the same cowardly language. And let me be clear, your resolution about paired voting isn't worth the paper it's printed on, and it doesn't solve the problem that new parents face in this institution. While I'm saddened that you're again trying to kill this discharge petition, I will take this moment to correct a lot of what was said on the other side of the dais last week. First, let me be clear about what parental remote voting resolution would actually do. It would simply allow members blessed with a new child to continue representing their constituents by voting remotely for up to 12 weeks in the time immediately before and after the birth of their baby. And it requires that for every vote during that period, the member voting remotely must provide exact instructions on how their votes shall be cast. They are not giving up any power at all. They're just working from where they need to be to care for their newborn. Second, they claim that this is part of some conspiratorial effort to turn Congress into an online workplace where we don't come together in person anymore. Let me be clear. If that's what this resolution did, I would not be supporting it. But of course, that's not at all what this resolution will do. I'm not sure if my colleagues across the aisle have noticed this, but the House is not exactly a group of spring chickens. A couple of members at a time voting remotely out of 435 is not going to change the feel of this institution, especially when the alternative is just them being absent completely. We think it's right to let new moms continue representing the constituents who elected them without having to make an impossible choice between a newborn and a flight to D.C. Republicans who oppose this resolution would prefer the constituents with a member lucky enough to welcome a new baby just go without representation. And they are right about one thing. That is exactly how it worked in the past. When Representative Luna had her baby last Congress, she had to miss almost 150 votes while caring for him. This Congress, Representative Pedersen has had to miss over 80% of the votes to care for her newborn. But guess what? We have the power to change that, and we should. And if for some reason you're opposed to that, you would get a chance to vote no when the resolution comes to the floor. Making threats and ultimatums to try to get your way in the face of a bipartisan majority is simply anti-democratic. Third, I keep hearing from the other side of the aisle that it is somehow unfair to our teachers, police officers, construction workers, and service workers to let new moms representing their constituents while caring for a newborn. No, I just hope that new moms in Congress get to keep doing the jobs they were elected to do. I have worked hard in my career to try to ensure that every new mom teaching in our schools, keeping our streets safe, and serving our communities gets time at home with their newborns and has the guarantee of a job to come back to if they choose to continue working. And finally, let me be very clear about what happened with the parental remote voting resolution. Members worked across the aisle to draft a compromise version of that common sense provision. A bipartisan majority of this House then expressed its will to take the resolution to the floor. Members followed the rules, the same basic rules that have been in place for 100 years, the same rules that have never been trod over like this rule tries to in the entire history of the House. Discharge is a very difficult process. It rarely is successful. And when it is successful, it's usually because the Speaker is blocking something that is common sense. That's the case here. The Republican leadership has been silent on one of their members illegally, by the way, voting by proxy from Hollywood. He went to film a comedy show, and he had another member vote for him. And my Republican friends have been silent on that. And Speaker Johnson still hasn't replied to a letter that many of us wrote him asking what he's going to do about that episode, because that is voter fraud. The rules have not been changed to allow for proxy voting. Not one word about that voter fraud, not a single word. but my Republican friends are falling all over themselves to block mothers with newborn babies from continuing to represent their constituents. I think that's shameful. Adopt my amendment and let the discharge process play out as it always has, and let the House decide. I yield back.
Is there any further